On this episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I sit down with Jason to talk all about his new game that will be coming to Kickstarter in about 10 days. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is proudly being powered by Table Breakers Super Heavy Solid Metal Poly Dice Set. Table Breakers are dangerously hefty. It's a classic metal poly dice set with a touch of luxury that everybody wants because they're bigger, heavier, and dangerous. Plus, you also get Christmas delivery. You want to jump in on and get these ones as you'll have less than 24 hours, less than 48 hours by the time we release this. The project goes through tomorrow, Tuesday the 6th of November, so it really depends on when you're listening, but definitely don't dilly-dally so you can get these dice that will break your neighbor's table, or you can always roll them in your dice towers or whatnot. So definitely check out Table Breakers Super Heavy Solid Metal Poly Dice Set. This episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief is also proudly being powered by the Cartel. It's a tabletop game where opponents compete to earn the most cryptocurrency on the black market. This project is over $10,000 over their initial goal, and there's still 8 days or 7 days to get in on the fun of this one as it ends next Monday, the 12th of November. So definitely go ahead and watch the video as Andy did an excellent job in his Kickstarter video. You don't want to miss it. And then if you like what you see or hear on either or any of the Kickstarter projects or any of the things we talk about, make sure you click the links on the show notes. And we'll catch you on the flip side of this interview for our Kickstarter Corner. So we'll go ahead and jump into that. We join this interview already in progress.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
The ground is scorched, buildings crumbled into ruin, and the population decimated as the Earth has been torn asunder. Technology harnessed the power of dark matter, but drawn to its power came the unhallowed, spewing forth through devastating rifts, corrupting everything in their wake. Those touched during the Asunder now tap into the planes to shape arcana into destructive forces or acts of miracles. Technology remains, arcane flourishes, and the will to survive in the new world pits faction against faction. You command a summoner with epic powers from one of the surviving factions. The object is simple. Destroy your opponent's summoner to claim victory. To survive, use this arcana to summon forces into battle or unleash powerful spells. Acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses as you summon characters into battle. A unique character provides devastating powers to help secure victory, but be warned, if destroyed, they cannot be summoned again. Common characters comprise the bulk of your army as you wage war. Swap out your summoner for new unique spells and abilities. Neutral mercenaries who hold no faction loyalty can be included in your army to further your goal of war supremacy and establish dominance in New Earth.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me neither, but this is a story or narrative of Earth Asunder, an intuitive war game that's either on Kickstarter or about to launch to Kickstarter, and tonight we're lucky enough to have on the creator mastermind behind Earth Asunder. Is that correct? Is that how you fall in line with this great game, Jason?
Yep, you've got it right, Blake. Earth Asunder it is.
Awesome. Now, before we get into the game and everything that's great about it, let's rewind a little bit if we could. We don't have to go back too terribly far, but how did you get started into playing tabletop board games?
Absolutely. So like a lot of other folks, it all started out in high school. I had a couple of buddies. We tended to spend our late nights playing Dungeons and Dragons, morphed into some Magic the Gathering, and then once I was fortunate to have a job and get some of my own money, that's when all the tabletop games started happening. So Warhammer, War Machine, and the like. So really throughout high school and my college years, it just kind of morphed as my income allowed me to do so.
Okay, so you went straight to Warhammer, not like Monopoly and Life and all that.
Yeah, well, as a kid early on, like going way back, of course, Risk and Monopoly and things like that with the parents. I was in chess club as early on, so I've always had strategy games in mind. And then once I saw that I could get beyond Risk and chess, and I found like the Warhammer games and those other strategy games, that's where my love and passion really began.
Now, are you still doing the Warhammer, or have you merged over to what other hobby games are, or what are you playing these days?
Yeah, so I've got a closet full of armies collecting dust for those games. I love them. It holds a special place in my heart. But I am not playing those games. My love right now is of course Earth Asunder. I've spent many hours beta testing that. Some friends at the local hobby shop. But outside of that, I'm playing a fair bit of Star Wars Armada. That's my next game of choice.
So is that a big miniature strategy game too, or what? Maybe there's somebody else out there like me that doesn't know what Star Wars Armada.
It's a mini game. It's a play on Star Wars, so it's an epic size game. It takes anywhere between 2 to 3 hours to play. You have armies that you fight, either rebels versus the Imperial Empire, and you take your ships into battle and your squadrons into battle, and you fight on a tabletop. So it's a version of kind of Warhammer War Machine, but in the Star Wars realm.
Oh, okay, awesome. So being a designer and all, if you were to do one thing to enhance that Star Wars game, what would that be, Jason?
Yes, that's well, the game is a great game. I love it, lots of aspects of it, but the only thing that I think really pains me is that you're able to upgrade your ships and your content, of course, but you have to do so, buying different sets and buying different models, and so uh, there's no easy way to really customize your game without spending money. I don't want to say it's a pay to win game or a pay to play game, but you can't do all the cool strategies and cool techniques without adventuring out and spending a fair bit of money. I guess that's my biggest gripe with it, I'd say.
Okay, so if you like, if I understand correctly, maybe you're buying like different ships or whatever, and they have different abilities, like new expansions or whatnot. Is that something like it?
Yep, exactly. You hit it on the head. So yeah, I might be playing a rebel army, but the upgrade I want is tied to an empire ship, which I'm not going to play the empire ship, but I need the expansion from it. So it really is. It's a great model for getting money, but it's frustrating for the players because you want that one upgrade card and you have to go searching for or buy something that you really don't want to buy.
Oh, okay, so that sounds interesting. Now word on the street is you created a game, not necessarily in Star Wars realm or even sci-fi, but what can you tell us about Earth Asunder, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. So, definitely not Star Wars. It's post-apocalyptic and it's set in New Earth, and so there's something that happens that's called the Asundering, and scientists tapped into the planes and unleashed hell upon the Earth, and then Earth Asunder itself is my love of war games. But it's designed to make sure that it's fast paced and it's easy to pick up. So for anyone that's familiar with any type of war games, you walk into a room, you see epic armies and great paint jobs and everything's there, and you're like, oh, that's great. What is that? And you peer over, and then they take out measuring sticks and they got rulers, they've got laser pointers, and then they're throwing hundreds of dice, and it really is intimidating, and it turns some people off. And so Earth Asunder, we call it an intuitive war game, is because we wanted to keep that strategy and keep the love that I have for wargaming and my friends have for wargaming, the whole team has for wargaming, and simplify those aspects so you get a great strategic game, but then you don't have to deal with the the dictionary thick rule book and all the measuring and everything else that goes along with it. So that's why we're calling it the intuitive war game. It's you don't lose the strategy, but you scrap all the somewhat annoying parts that are built into some other games.
But you're saying I don't get a ruler with your game?
No, 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 no ruler. There's no ruler. It's a hex-based game, so movement is easy, line of sight is easy, attacking and defense is easy. So there's no measuring involved. You're not going to be arguing over millimeters and templates and things like that. We've simplified it down to make sure that it's enjoyable as possible and not having to deal with those nuances.
Well, that's pretty good. Now, is it a 2-player game, or how many people can go to war against each other?
Yeah, so it is a 2-player game. There is an expansion for a 4-player game. If you have 2 armies. So the Kickstarter is strictly the 2-player game, where you've got 2 rival factions playing against each other.
Okay, so per se, me and you sat down to play Earth Asunder, an intuitive war game. What would our turns look like, Jason?
Yep, absolutely. So the nice thing and I guess what's unique about Earth Asunder is that it's very fluid and dynamic, and so you start with a summoner, and your ultimate goal is to kill the other person's summoner. And unlike other games, you don't start with a set army or army points. You gain something called Arcana, and you use that resources to either cast spells, buff your army, or you do something, since it's a summoner, you summon characters onto the board. And so a turn would consist of you using your resources or your Arcana to either summon characters onto the board, cast spells, either offensive, defensive, or a buff, a help effect, and then start advancing your characters towards the other opponent, using terrain and some things called rift nodes, which are focal points. And it's very back and forth. And the unique thing about this is, in this game, if one of your characters dies, you can summon another one back onto the board. So if you've got the resources, you can keep resummoning armies. And so that's what's really unique about Earth Asunder, is it's not, you lose an army, it's gone. You can keep summoning them as long as you manage your resources correctly.
Now, is it asymmetrical? Is your army going to be the same as my army, or how does that look?
No, it's not. So there is your army consists of 10 cards, and each card corresponds to a character. And the card has a statistic card matching it. And your army is different from my army. So there's a Dalaran army. There's also a Sinestra army. They're 2 different factions. Within those factions, you have the ability of swapping different characters in and out. You can add mercenaries to your deck, and so each player's army is going to vary slightly. And even if we did, let's say, Blake, you and I played the same army, and we have the same cards, it's a completely different gaming experience, because you might summon in your army 2 of one character or 3 of the other characters, and I take a whole different approach and summon 10 of a different one. So just because you might have some of the same cards, the play is different, because the ability of summoning different characters, or maybe not even summoning them at all. So it's not so much about your deck, but what you use in the deck, and how you summon to either counter your opponent's attacks, or what type of strategy you're looking to deploy.
Oh, okay, that sounds pretty cool. Now, do we each start with so many people on the board, or we have to summon them straight away, or how's that go?
Yep, it's as simple as it gets. You start with your summoner on the board, obstacles, and a thing called rift nodes, where you can harvest other more arcana to summon characters or cast spells. So you start with one, and then very quickly you can build up your army to wage war. There's a cap involved, so you can't just sit back and amass armies and hordes, but you start with one, and then very quickly you could have 5, 6, 10, 12 different characters on the board waging war.
Okay, so we've gotten our characters summoned, and we decide to go to war. How does the war look?
Yep. So it consists of, it's a turn-based attack, and so you at any point in the game can activate any character. And so once you activate that character then can move, and then depending on what the character's abilities are, it can either make a melee attack, it can either shoot a bow or a gun. If it's a caster, it can cast a spell. So you activate a character, that character then advances and then performs an attack or an ability on the opposing character. The nice thing about the game is that, since it's a hex-based system, if your character moves 2 or 3, it's very simple to get from point A to point B. Simply move 2 or 3 hexes. If your character is melee, you can swing 1 hex away, and if it's range, it says range 2 or 3, and that's how far it can shoot. So very quickly, you can pick up the game and understand how things work. based off of the intuitive nature of what war looks like and how the game is designed.
I imagine the card tells me like how many dice I need to roll, or how does that look?
Yeah, so again, dice. There are dice. Dice are provided in the game. It's usually used for managing how much Arcana you have. Very rarely you use dice except for the roll off, and so your character cards consist of four main attributes: how much they cost to summon, uh, what movement they have, uh, how strong their power is, and how much health they have. And then they have special corresponding powers below that. They can cast spells, or they can hit first with first strike, or they've got backstab abilities, or they can block, or they can taunt. And so, simply put, um, if your character has a health of 2, and I can have a power of 3, I move my character over to you, and if I'm in range, I swing at you. If you survive, you can swing back at me and do damage. If you don't survive, my power against your health, you die. So there's not a lot of dice tossing. It's pretty simple in the fact that it's my power versus your health, and that's it.
Can I block you or anything?
Yep. Of course, that's where some of the more complex games come in. So, it's easy to pick up in the fact that it's pretty simple what I just described. You walk over, I do my power attack first. What your health is what you absorb. But then it's a more difficult game to master. I've probably played over 100 games over the course of our last year of testing, where that's where the nuances come in, where you've got characters that can block, you got characters that can absorb damage, you've got spells that can heal or regenerate. And so each character have different abilities and different spells, and that's where the complexity of the game comes in, because different characters can do different things, and you can add different characters in that can do, of course, different things as well. So it starts off simple. You understand the mechanics, and then it becomes a little more complex as you start doing all these complex maneuvers. There's some cool combos and the like.
It sounds really cool. I think my wife would unfortunately probably wipe the floor with me. I also hear I suffer from analysis paralysis. Like if there's a lot of choices, how is that fair? Has anybody with AP played your game, and what measures did you take against that?
Yeah, that's a that's a great comment. We've actually. Truth be told, playing Star Wars Armada, I have a lot of analysis paralysis in that game. It's not as prevalent in Earth Asunder because it is more skirmish based. You'll probably have on the board anywhere between 3 to maybe 10 or 12 different characters on the board. But we have a very streamlined game style where that the characters aren't overwhelmed with abilities, and so a character of a summoning of 1, which is the lowest character summoning cost, can just swing a sword like a normal person. Then as it goes up, they might have 1 extra ability or 2 extra abilities. So you're not dealing with character cards and hundreds of spells. It really boils down to 1 or different unique abilities, and abilities based off of what's on the character hex card. So very quickly, you understand the game mechanics, and a character can do 1 or 2, 3 different things. So there's not so much of that just based off of the size of the game and how the scale of spells work in combination with how tough the character is.
Sounds like a lot of thought has gone into it, and you talked about a lot of play testing. During that play testing, was there ever anything you had to scrap because it just wouldn't work for the game, Jason?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have. I was really blessed that I've got my own shop, and we also have a couple local gaming shops, and I have a horde of people that are really seasoned tabletop game players. They played all the games out there that I mentioned earlier, and the most difficult part of this is really balancing the characters and balancing the factions. And so I'll give you a for instance. So in our Kickstarter campaign, there's going to be 3 factions. There's the Sinestra faction, the Dalrun faction, and the Mercenary faction. The Sinestra faction is I want to call them like a glass cannon. They can hit hard, they can hit fast, they rely on stealth and maneuverability, but they're very weak and they die easily. They don't have a lot of hit points. The Dalrun is a little different. They rely on synergies where the characters will intertwine together and work. So it'll cast a buff on a person, this person will make this person stronger. They attack in groups and have flag bearers, and so it's very synergistic army. And what we struggled with early on was really balancing the characters and making sure some things aren't as overpowered as they need to be. And we actually came up with a, a mathematical equation, for lack of better terms, that says this character can do this, and based off their attributes, where are they lying on the power scale to in it. So balancing the characters was very tough, and that's why we beta tested the game for almost a year to get it right. So that was the biggest thing that we struggled with, and we scrapped a lot of characters and a lot of ideas because it wasn't working out, and we didn't like that it was very lopsided. We wanted the game to be as balanced as possible.
It's good that you're able to put that much time into it. Now you talked of your shop. Do you run a board game shop, or what shop are you referring to?
So I have a gaming store. So it's more of a traditional computer type gamings and things of that nature. We do have a small section for board games, but that's so I've been in the gaming industry for a while, more computer versions, but we do have a space in back for tabletop gamings and the like. So I've been around it for a while.
So, a computer game store, what's that look like? And what's it called, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. It's called Nova VR. So it's out in Illinois. We're in the Grays Lake area, and it's a virtual reality lounge. And so we've got virtual reality units that we set up, and people then come in and play these powerful virtual reality machines and get to enjoy life outside of work. And then in the back of our house, we've got tables and chairs and everything set up so people can come in, and we play a lot of Earth Asunder back there. We play some other tabletop games back there, and so it's a cool combination of really cutting edge virtual reality, and at the same time sitting around with four or five of your buddies playing some tabletop games.
That sounds pretty cool. Now, this is one of like where I see on TV where you put on a pair of eyeglasses or something and you walk around and do stuff in regards to that way, or what's the virtual reality? What's that look like?
Yep, you've nailed it. We've got very high powered computers that's connected to cutting edge games. You put these devices on your hands. You've got the wands that detect where you're at. You've got a 10-foot by 10-foot playing area, and you can walk around and play games, jump off buildings, swim with whales, or think that you're Neo in the Matrix. So there's a lot of interesting things you can do in virtual reality.
What about, is there an Earth Asunder virtual reality?
There isn't an Earth Asunder virtual reality, although we're looking at right now developing an app where we've got the cards and a deck builder and things like that. So we're gonna have some technology coming, but it's more in the app realm worlds, not so much 3D. But that might be my next project is Earth Asunder virtual reality.
Well, there you go. So it sounds like they're going to have to settle for the board game right now.
They are, yeah. So they can't see the characters in VR, but we've got over 32 sculpted minis that are 40 millimeters, so they're pretty awesome size for folks to play with in Earth Asunder.
Oh, okay. And it looks like there's a lot of people that have reviewed the game. What did they have to say, and who reviewed it? A couple of the people.
Yeah, so we've got reviews out from a lot of different folks, and so I'll tick off a couple, which I'm sure some folks are known. The reviews will be out next week, so I don't want to have any spoilers. I want them to go to their YouTube sites and see it. But yeah, Luke's app, we got Unfiltered Gamer, we've got Tantrum House, Logan Chop reviews. So we got 6 or 7 different folks reviewing the game. They've had it now for over a month or so and play tested it, and those reviews will be out sometime before our Kickstarter, so in the next week or two, so early November. Look for reviews on 6 or 7 YouTube sites about Earth Asunder.
Okay, somebody's listening right now. The Kickstarter is running from when to when, Jason?
So right now, our Kickstarter is going to be launching on November 13th. and then it's going to run all the way to December 14th. So it's going to be the month-long Kickstarter, and Tuesday, November 13th is our release.
So that's kind of a little bit dangerous, isn't it, with Christmas and everything coming?
It is dangerous with Christmas. I know there's a big I don't want to say it's bad form to go in December. We want to do early November, but we think it would make an excellent gift. I know it's going to cater some of the models. We've hired some of the best sculptors. Are going to be very very good for the collectors out there, and dangerous, sure. I see the risk in there, but I think it's also going to be a great pick me up present for both people that want to get into wargaming because it's like I said, it's intuitive and quick and easy to learn, and then it's going to also appeal to the hobbyists that like cool minis, and hopefully it appeals to both, and we do well.
There you go. So somebody gets it, picks it up as a present, or they just want to get this awesome game. When would they anticipate getting their own copy of Earth Asunder, an intuitive war game, Jason?
Yep. So the Kickstarter, once the Kickstarter ends in December, we're looking at a 4 to 5 month turnaround. You know, I know some people have some reservations with production in China, but that's some of the reality of the world we're living in. So that's why it takes us 4 to 5 months out. So on our Kickstarter site, we say June. My gut says it'll be a couple months before that, but I don't want to promise and not deliver. So we're being very conservative in our estimations of when the game will land. So we're looking at 6 months post December.
Most definitely. Now, with Earth Asunder, an intuitive war game, what would you say you're most proud of, Jason?
Yeah, so I alluded to a little bit, but what I really prided on is that as we've gone through beta testing, and we've done just very, raw beta tests. We've gone to local shops. People off the street will walk in, will have no experience with tabletop games. I mentioned some of the big ones. They have no idea what it is, or they've been afraid to get into it. And within 5 6 minutes, they're playing the game, and they understand it. And then by game number 2, they're doing advanced tactics, and they're loving it. They're not intimidated by things, and so it's a really good feeling when you're able to get someone over this hump of strategy war games. And some from the experienced people out there, they're saying, "Hey, Jason, it wasn't too bad." But if you think back to your first time you played some of these games, and it's a 60-page rule book, and you're measuring, and you're arguing about millimeters, and you're looking at templates, and you're arguing about stuff like that, it sometimes take away from the fun and enjoyment of it. And our team has done a tremendous job in making sure that that aggravation is out of wargaming, and we keep the strategy and we get rid of that. That's the first thing. And the second thing is this our unique ability for summoning. And so you have your 10 person army, but the game is very fluid because you can summon anything at any time and multiples of things, and if it dies, you can resummon again if you manage your resources. So it breaks away from traditional wargaming where you go in with X amount of points or X amount of armies, and you start your game off with your army on the table. You're starting your game here with a person on your table, your summoner. If he or she dies, game is over. And they're very, very powerful, but they're almost like you have to use them wisely, but you have to protect them. And then you can customize your army as the game plays. If your opponent is going very heavy armored and they're blocking your long range attacks, you can't get through. Well, you happen to pack 2 casters. You start summoning casters to counteract their big beefy tanks, and so the game is very fluid in the fact that you summon on demand and your army changes on demand. And so you can play the same deck, your same 10 army 10 times, and every time it could be different because you're pulling different characters out and you're using characters different. And that's the unique aspect of the game. So it's simple and it's dynamic and it changes all the time based off of the summoning aspect of it.
It sounds like replayability is a pretty good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the core game, you have great replayability in there. And then we've done a really good job making sure that, especially on our initial Kickstarter, there's plenty of upgrades and factions that you can lay in. So we've given 2 additional summers per faction, and each summoner has their own spell list, their own character cap. We've provided extra uniques, and then we've provided also mercenaries that can be included in any faction to play. And so the replayability and just the starter set alone is great. And then you tack on the faction expansion, the Merc expansion, and you can play forever. I personally play just the starter set with no expansions for a year with our team, and I got to tell you, every game is different. You start throwing on all these different unique characters and these upgrades, and then it's a whole new ball game. So short answer, replayability, check.
There you go. Sounds good. Now, according to Kickstarter, it says this is your first project. Is that right?
It's my first Kickstarter project, yes. So it's our first Kickstarter project, but it's by no means our first project. I mean, we're under our our company, Cent LLC. Obviously, we've got our store. We've published books. We've got an app on the way, and so we're an established company, and that's why the game is complete. We're everything that is being promised in the Kickstarter campaign is already built and paid for. We don't need money to fund sculptors and fund the artwork. It's all 100% built. So there's nothing going to the game that needs to be turned around to make the product. The game's built. It's sound. It's ready to go. So I know there's a lot of worry from people there with first Kickstarter campaigns, but it's set. We can play it. We can play it right now. I've got a copy sitting on my desk that I'm talking to you. I'll have it to you tomorrow. You can play it. So no worries there. We're ready to go.
Who are you shipping with? That's pretty quick to get it to me.
Yeah, well, actually, if you're close enough, I'll deliver it to you, Blake. So we're looking at going through FedEx. There's a couple different distribution companies that I'm working with. Right now, I'm leaning with Flat River Group, but we'll see right now.
Yeah, I was just giving you a hard time because you said you'd have it to me by tomorrow.
Oh, hey, if you want it, I'll drive to your house, no problem.
Well, there you go. Awesome. Now, like you said, sometimes people worry with it being a new creator and whatnot, but it sounds like you've done other projects and stuff. But being a first-time creator, just being in the industry for the last couple of years or whatnot, I've noticed people in the industry, when they see a first-time Kickstarter creator with a funding goal that high, 40, 50,000, depending on where you guys end up, and with miniatures especially, sometimes they have a little bit of a hard time with that. When I see those, they have a hard time and don't necessarily always get funded first off. What are some measures that you've taken into account and some of the things you've done? I know only time will tell, but what are some of the things you've done in the meantime and gearing up for the Kickstarter to hopefully avoid this and be able to fund and get this awesome game out to people?
Sure, absolutely. So I guess the couple of things is we didn't go in blind. So our team and I, we're good at what we do, but we've hired Kickstarter consultants to help us along the way and the journey along the way. We want to make sure the game was 100% ready. We wanted to make sure that it was in the hands of capable reviewers that will give an honest review of the game. Um, and we've done a good job, managing the boards and the groups accordingly. And so we think with the expertise that we've hired onto the project, and the value that we're giving, that folks it'll resonate with them. The game will resonate with them, and that'll be a success.
There you go. Yeah, we hope so. And it looks like Cool Mini or Not will be done with their campaign by the time you launch. Looking at this right now,
Even better. Yeah, there's a lot of great games out there. Absolutely, it's an exciting time for the industry and the board game alike. And there's a lot of cool sculpts out there as well. So absolutely, I mean, listen, it can cater to the mini population because there's great minis. They're 40 millimeters, so they're a really cool size. It'll still fit and play with the 32 millimeters, but you can get some great paint jobs on them. And then it should appeal to the masses because it's not this intimidating giant war game that people are afraid of. And so We're hoping to get the board gamers that are reluctant to play war games, give it a whirl, because it's just like just like playing Monopoly or Risk or chess. And then of course the enthusiasts that like to paint, they get some cool minis. And like I said, we have an up to 32 unique minis that are packed into our Kickstarter. So hopefully to appeal to both crowds, Blake.
Awesome. And you kind of answered this question, so I'm just going to ask it. And then if you have anything to add, with all the game projects on Kickstarter currently, Jason, what makes your game pop or stand out as one my audience should go check out and then back if they like what they see? Do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I touched on it briefly, but it really is the intuitive nature of a war game. And so you're able to pick it up. You're not intimidated by laser pointers and rulers and hundreds of dice. You're able to sit down and play. It's not going to take you 3 hours. It's going to take you 30 to 60 minutes to play. And then there's a unique summoning aspect of it that's not really seen out there. That is different as well. And so you roll all those things together. You got an easy game that's hard to master. It's still strategic. You can get it in under an hour, and it's got great minis as well. And so we think it's the best of all those worlds.
Awesome. And even though they don't need it, if they just go for the core set, it looks like if they're trying to stay under $100, they'll still have that money to go buy a ruler at the local Walmart or whatnot.
That's right. Yeah. So we wanted to make sure it was under $100. Yeah. So we're coming in at the $89 mark. So yeah, they can go in, buy a ruler, get some lunch, and still walk away with high quality models with the game.
Now, minus, we don't want to keep you all night, so minus coming there to Illinois to stalk you or whatnot, or I guess unless they want to come play the virtual games there at your shop, how would people go about keeping up with you and S Entertainment LCC? Is that what you call it? Or LLC?
Yep. It's just sent for short. Yep. So just sent for short, yeah. So earthasunder.com is a great place. We also launched our Earth Asunder Facebook page, but we've got a mailing list that they can certainly subscribe to. And then we don't like to inundate everyone with just junk mail, but go to the website, go to our Facebook, like us, and you can keep up with all things Earth Asunder. We're always looking for beta testers. I've got a guy that's out in Ohio. He likes the game so much that he's helping us from Ohio, and I'm in Illinois. So we got really good people that are on it. And don't be shy if you're across the world and you want to get involved in the game. Give us a shout out. Join our mailer, and we'll get this thing launched together.
Cool. Now, is there any insider info? I know you're focused on this one and getting this out there into the world, but is there any insider information you can give us about what might be up and coming from you guys after the fact, after this?
Yes, there's a couple of things. First of all, there's a book that's going to be released as well. So I've got a myriad of different hobbies. One of it's writing. So I've got one book published already. I'm looking to finish up an Earth Asunder book that talks about the Summoner. So that's coming. And then we're looking at we've got some of the blueprints designed and some really rough SketchUps of a co-op game that's in the Earth Asunder world. And the cool thing about this, though, Blake, is that let's say you like the co-op and you've got the Earth Asunder base set, and this new game coming, we're looking at just dubbing it Asunder. That's still TBD, but the character cards would transition between both games. So one game is a co-op versus an AI. Earth Asunder that we're releasing is, of course, a 1v1 player, and there's going to be a 2v2 component coming as well. We'll have those rules released. But so insider information is co-op game coming, and the character cards are interchangeable. So if you buy the co-op, you can include those character cards in your Earth Asunder and vice versa. So some cool things coming.
Well, there you go. And it sounds like they can go ahead and jump on your mailing list, and they'll be notified as stuff comes up with that.
Yep, absolutely. We want to get this done and released first. The team is still working on the co-op game as we speak. Things don't turn overnight, of course, but yeah, we're gonna be looking for some insight into that as well. So the man list for all things Earth Asunder for our recent release coming up in November, and then of course they can stay in touch for what the co-op is going and actually be a part of that as well. So good things coming.
Sounds like it, and we'll make sure if you get us the links, we'll make sure we leave all the links in the show notes so people can just click on the link and they won't have to go too far. So that's awesome. Now, like I said, we don't want to keep you all night, but we really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Game Relief with us tonight, Jason, to talk all about Earth Asunder, an intuitive war game that's either on or about to come to Kickstarter.
I appreciate your time. Thanks, Blake.
No problem.
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaves computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leaves.
So if you liked anything that you heard on that Kickstarter that is coming up from Jason, Earth Asunder, if you like the intuitive war game they talked about, make sure you go ahead and click that link that we leave in our show notes. On the top left-hand corner, it'll be an option to say, notify me upon launch, and they'll do none other than notify you upon the launch. It's that easy. I already did it, and you can too. Although Halloween is dead, we don't want your Halloween collection to die, so definitely check out Dead Sprint the game. It's a board game for 2 to 5 players that need to outrun a horde of the undead. Try to stay ahead on your turn before the horde takes theirs. This game looks awesome. There's a short time to go. You got through next Thursday, the 15th of November. Just make sure that your friends are in between you and the horde, and then you've got the game won. But first off, you got to get the game, so jump over and check out the Kickstarter Dead Sprint, the game from Rabble Game Studios. One that doesn't involve dying unless I guess you get the electrical wrong in real life, is Circuit Breaker board game, but they've brought it to the table so you don't have to risk dying. But Circuit Breaker is a casual strategy game where you can play it with up to 3 other friends, and all players are attempting to successfully rewire their own homes in a hastily scheduled house party. It's got some great set collection, tile placement, and crafty rodents that will put to use in fun, cheeky race to be the most happening place on the block. So you definitely want to check out Circuit Breaker, a puzzle game of quirky competition and crafty rodents coming to you from Freshwater Games on Kickstarter through Thursday the 15th of November. So check out Circuit Breaker board game. Ever go to a game group and win but don't get a star sticker or something to signify that win? Well, Congrats Coins has you covered in their Congratulations coin and Attaboy coin that's currently on Kickstarter for another 3 days. Go ahead and check out this campaign as it runs through Wednesday the 7th of November. One that hasn't yet launched but will be coming to you to help with your Halloween horde of games next year is Monster Mania. From Meet Me at the Table Games from Joshua. We had him on the podcast and helped advertise his Western game last year, Frontier the card game, that successfully funded over 117%. And he's back at it, or will be back at it later on this year in Monster Mania. Monster Mania is a strategic card game for 1 to 6 players. Collect resources, deal powerful attacks, and defeat all other monsters in this fun, exciting game. I have yet to crack the shrink wrap, but we did get the game, and the art looks amazing. Can't wait till me and the other Leafs can go ahead and play that and tell you what we think about it. But in the meantime, go ahead on this same one. Check that you want to go ahead and notify me upon launch. They're on the top of the Kickstarter page, and they'll notify you upon launch. So definitely check that out, and let's see if we can get some Halloween spirit into our Christmas this year, I guess, shouldn't we? Now, it's our least favorite time, your least favorite time, but if you want to get your game, or you know somebody else who has a game coming up, and you want to hear it featured on Getting Geeky with Game Relief, don't hesitate to contact us. Do contact us, especially on Facebook at Getting Geeky with Game Relief or Blake Leafty via Messenger, or you can email us at gamerelief@gamereliefgo.com. Probably Facebook's the best way, but it's up to you. We'll leave that up to your discretion. But anyways, our least favorite time, your least favorite time for us to get on with our lives, you to get on with yours. In the meantime, I hope you'll get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others into Geekful. Game Relief out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.